Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, if this fire pit is any indication, in today's video I will be showing you how to build a fire. Now, this video isn't designed to explore any different fire starting techniques or materials, but rather just a rudimentary video to show you guys one way to do it, and then I'll go into different methods and materials and other topics in later videos. So today is a bit of a wetter day. It's raining a little bit, it's obviously overcast, and this is not, of course, the ideal day to start a fire, but if you're in a survival situation, or if you had planned a camping trip in advance, and this is what you're dealing with, obviously you want to be able to start a fire no matter what the weather is. That said, of course, this is not ideal, and if you had a fire starting method such as, well, flint and steel, you might have a little difficulty. So, given that, what do I use? Well, I don't use flint and steel because I honestly don't see the reason to make anything harder for myself. And taking that to its extreme, what do I use? Hold on. Pocket blowtorch. Alright. Gets fires started really quick. Now, obviously, I don't expect everyone to carry around a blowtorch in their pocket, even if it is portable size. But the point is that you should carry some method of fire starting that works in all manner of scenarios. You want something that works whether it's raining, whether it's windy. Flint and steel and other fire starting methods don't really do that all that well. Such fire starting methods would include matches, ideally matches that are soaked in resin, so-called mega matches, or windproof matches, waterproof matches, lighters, regular lighters. Cigarette lighters, not the best, but those regular home lighters are perfect for this. And of course, a pocket blowtorch would be awesome if you could get one. Things like flint and steel or magnifying glass are not ideal because depending on the weather, they will have difficulty starting fires. Obviously, a magnifying glass doesn't work well when it's overcast. And when the ground is wet and your materials are even slightly wet, flint and steel doesn't work all that well. If you're going to go ahead and take a fire starting material with you, you might as well make it something very substantial. The blowtorch I have is no bigger than the usual flint mags most people carry, and I would prefer my survival and the ability to have a fire be not dependent on weather conditions as much as possible. So, in a survival or camping scenario, you want to start a fire. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to find a place to put that fire. Now, an existing fire pit is ideal, but if you're in a survival situation, maybe that's not a good plan. You're not going to hike around to find an existing fire pit. So if you really do need to build one wherever you are, try to find a clearing where you're not going to catch fire to any trees or brush. Obviously, you don't want to start a forest fire. That would be a bad idea. And you shouldn't build it too far away from trees, especially a tree you're going to build your shelter in if you are in a survival scenario, because fire keeps you warm, and on cold nights, warmth might be exactly what you need to survive. Next, you're going to need a source of tinder, something to actually get the fire going. And for this, what I like to use are freestanding plants that are dead, such as these reeds. And these reeds are ideal because they also have these whatever you'd call this, which is fluffy. And these are also invasive plants. So, perfect. And the rod, the stalk, is usually quite dry, and it also serves as kindling, at least as much as small stick would. The one thing you got to be careful with these is that you should never let them slip in your hand. These tend to fracture and make very sharp bits, and if your hand slides on one of them, I've had this happen to me before, it will literally slice you pretty deep. They get really sharp, and if your hand slides on them, you'll get cut pretty badly. Alright, now that should be plenty, and it should be noted you should try to sort of fluff it up as much as possible. Oxygen needs to get into this tinder so that it burns and burns hot. So you want to make it so that oxygen can get in. If they're all sort of flattened down, it's a lot harder for it to burn the proper way. Now next you want some fairly good and dry wood. Now, it shouldn't be too rotted, but it shouldn't be green. You shouldn't be pulling these off any live trees. Not just because you'll hurt the trees, but because it doesn't burn all that well. And if you can get it split like this, that would be ideal, because even if it's soaking wet, the chances that a inside of a log is going to be soaking wet, it'll still probably be dry, even if it's freshly rained on. And you want to arrange these thicker sticks. You can do thinner if you want, like this size is actually perfect. And you want to arrange them in this pattern. This is called a log cabin fire. And this is ideal because it lets air in through the sides while still sort of containing the heat and giving fuel to burn around the fire. If you want to be extra sure that your fire is going to light and light well, what you can do is sort of stick these in and weave them through the other sticks so that there's air underneath them and there's fuel all throughout this sort of internal area here. And once you're satisfied with that, you want to add small sticks like these to the top of the fire so that the fire that's coming upward, all the heat that's coming upward, can get these lit. And you also, depending on the conditions, might want to stick a few really dry ones down in through the top, like, say, this. That way the fire has like a ladder up to the top. I find small pieces of dead grapevine are ideal for this, because if you'll see, they break very dry. Now, depending on your fire starting method, this might be ready to go. In my case, it is. Now, if you have a lesser fire starting method, you might want to be a little more sturdy in your design. Make it so that you really have tinder that's going to light really quickly, and you're sure that everything's going to start. Because in my case, I can always just press the button and light it again. And in my case, honestly, I could just hold the lighter to these sticks and get them to light. But that's not exactly proper fire starting technique. If you have a lesser fire starting method, you want to be absolutely sure that it's gonna light. Alright, now it's starting to rain, so I better get this show on the road. Alright, come on. And let's hold that there. Alright, come on. Oh, not enough oxygen to it. There we go. Come on. I think the problem is that these reeds are fresh. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. So it looks like the reeds are probably freshly dead and haven't fully dried yet. Now this is why it's important to have a backup. You can't always just rely on the same plants, because different times of year they might not work as well. Alright, it's starting to rain, so I gotta make this really quick. These are garlic mustard plants that have died and gone to seed, and they should be perfect since they've died quite a long time ago. Alright, here goes nothing. Let's light her up. There we go. Alright. Might need to turn the camera off real quick to get this going. Push these in. Come on. Whoop, 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 whoop. Fire tends to move things around. Always want to be here as it goes. Alright. And that's why always want to be sturdy with your construction. Alright then, take 3. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I've rebuilt the structure, and added quite a lot of fuel to burn. Alright, now might be tempted to sort of blow on this, try to get it going. You don't want to do this at this stage. Tinder doesn't like to be blown on because it's so delicate. Once those smaller sticks get going, I might start throwing a few more in and start trying to keep them lit. Alright, so it's lit. Now this is the part where you're going to want to make sure that you're tending the fire very closely, making sure that it's well fed and it gets enough oxygen. Because once you're at this point, it's easy for a fire to die, but if you watch it closely and give it fuel, it won't go out. Over time, the fire will be able to burn bigger and bigger fuel, and stuff like logs, that sort of stuff. And that's pretty much where you want to stop. No point in building a huge bonfire to where it can burn whole trees. That's one, unsafe, and two, you really have no need for it. No need to really burn anything thicker than maybe 10 inches. And I mean, in this fire pit, that wouldn't work anyway. And once your fire gets to this stage, honestly, I don't think any amount of rain will put it out. It's just too hot. Individual raindrops aren't going to do it. And another quick tip, oftentimes as you see a fire burns, small sticks like this will stop burning, they'll get out of the center of the fire, and there'll still be quite a bit of fuel just on the sides collecting. Now this is the best fuel because it's already dried from the heat of the fire. So if you stick it on, it'll light up really quickly. And there we go, a nice fire. Now you can use this to cook, keep warm, all those sorts of things. Obviously, even though I have a mini blowtorch in my pocket, it's not easy. And if you're building a fire in a camping or survival scenario, you're going to have to deal with a bit of trial and tribulation and real-world difficulties. At any rate, hope you all enjoyed. See ya.